Assalamu alaikum. My name is Mohammad Ujjol Hossen, and today we are going to present insurance and risk management, an important topic about the current risk in Bangladesh and how we can solve this problem. So before we move on, we want to introduce our team. We are group risk taker, and this that's the member list where we have Mohammad Ujjol Hossen, which is me. Then we have Fariha Tabassum Pranty, then Mohammad Imtiaz Hossain, Rafia Tanima, and the last one, Mohammad Ibrahim Khalil. So, as a risk taker team, we know that sometimes the more risk we take, the more there is benefit. So, but nowadays we are taking logical risk. Let's learn why we are taking this logical risk. So, the topic why there is a risk in Bangladesh and how we can solve those. So we will go one by one. First, we will see the problem and then we will analyze a bit and then we will solve this problem. So let's get started. The first one. The first one is political change. Political change, and then we have climate change. The here in this slide, you see that there is climate change problem in Bangladesh. As a climate change prone country, we face lots of problems. For example, floods, cyclones, sea level rise, erratic rainfall patterns leading to loss of lives, property, and livelihoods. As you know that in future, in approximately in 2050, almost 17% of the lands will go under the sea level. So that's a serious problem, right? So we have to do something because sometimes the people living besides the river face the river erosion problem, and then they have no land to live. So that's a serious problem, and we have to solve this problem. So how we can solve this climate change and how we can uh, move forward. So there is a probable solution that we can use, and it's not an instant problem solution. We have to use this solution again and again so that we can solve this problem. So probable solution adopt a multi-pronged approach to combat climate change and ensure a sustainable future. For this, we can use kind of like solar, wind, or hydropower energy system so that we can produce electricity, so that we can reduce the uses of coal or gas or oil to produce electricity. That's the one way to solve this problem, but we have lots of other ways. For example, the Bangladesh government has taken an step which is called a Delta Plan, by which we can build wall or dikes or water management system we can introduce so that we can solve this problem. Because you know these problems so huge that we if we don't take any step right now, then the problem will not be solved and it will be much more complicated. So that's the one way to solve this problem. So the next problem we face is that is political instability. As a country, Bangladesh got independence in 1971. Since then, Bangladesh has this problem, and what about the parties? It's maybe Awami League, BNP, or Jamaat Islami, or anything else. This political instability is so huge that there should be an understanding between the government and the opposition party, because there is a lots of life loss, right? So we should solve this problem. The political instability and authoritarian rule have implications for the country's economic development and for the social progress and regional stability. And for this, what happens? The business person don't want to get involved in our country. Foreign investment also basically doesn't come because they see that there is no stability in their politics. So it might be unprofitable for them to invest in our country, and that's why the foreign direct investment also doesn't come actually. And also, if you have this political instability, there is the lack of human rights, which is the basic rights every human should have. Also, the democracy is also one kind of human rights. So if there is no human rights, then there will be no understanding between the government and this general people, which creates much more chaos and instability among the general people and among the country, which can create much more chaos, right? So that's why this problem should be also be solved. So how we can solve this problem? There's an easy way. I have already told you before that there will be an understanding between the government party and as well as the opposition party. And addressing political instability in Bangladesh requires a concerted effort from all stakeholders, not only the government party and the opposition party. There should be also the stakeholders who are involved with this situations, the civil society, and international efforts. Because sometimes you see that the pressure of the international organizations can solve these types of problems. Also, the government must ensure the role of law principles, including respect human rights, uphold democratic principles, including a free and fair electoral process. Sometimes what happens? When a party becomes the government party, they try to be there for thousands of years, but it doesn't happen, right? So what they can do here, that they can arrange a free and fair elections, and if the general people likes the government party, then they can again vote them. This way they can be again in their rules, and they can make a good environment in a country. Also, the opposition parties should engage in a constructive dialogue. Sometimes what happens, there is opposition party and they make dialogue, they make comments just because they have to make comments. There's no logic there actually. Sometimes they make illogical comments which is not at all constructive. So this problem also should be solved. Both the government party and the opposition party should come forward to develop this country as well. So this is how we can solve this problem. That's why there should be an understanding between these two parties. The next one is the poverty and income inequality. Country like Bangladesh faces these kinds of problems a lot, and you maybe know that almost 25% of the populations are now in the poverty rate. Are now in the poverty rate. So that problem should be solved as well. And you will be surprised to know that the wealthiest 10% of the populations are total population's earning is 25% of the income, country's income actually. And the 10% of the poorest populations have only 2% of the country's income. That's a huge gap, almost 23% gap between the 10% of the richest population and 10% of the poorest population. This gap should be reduced as well. And if you go to the rural areas, this gap is all much more higher than usual. And as a country like agricultural dependent country like Bangladesh, uh, the agricultural farmers face these problems when they have to buy medicine or pesticides to produce crops. So they also face these types of problems. If they uh, have no way to produce these kinds of products, then this 10% of the richest populations will also face problems. So there should be an solutions. And what kind of solution we can have there? The first one, we can give access to education, because if you know that the more educated populations you have, the more possibility of becoming a developed country. So this is how we can solve this problem. As well we can also give access healthcare, job opportunities, so that this poverty and inequality reduces. Also, the social safety net. Nowadays, Bangladesh government has introduced social safety net programs in Bangladesh, but it's not enough, right? Because we have a huge populations, and this program is only for a little fraction of the population. So more programs like that should be introduced, as well as the educational stipends for girls, microfinance programs for rural communities also should be introduced. So that's it from my presentation. Now I want to call Imtiaz Hossain to start his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ujjol, for giving me the floor. Hello everyone, this is Imtiaz Hossain, bearing role 167. Now I am going to discuss about the about the risk and solutions of Rohingya refugee crisis and COVID-19. First comes to the Rohingya refugee crisis. The risk of Rohingya refugee crisis can be limited resources, as our limited resource is very rare and scarce. But we cannot share with them because ours is a big populated country. Then insecurity, their social insecurity is very much is a big concern for our government. Then and other risk can be social unrest. Now heading to the next slide. the the solutions of Rohingya refugee crisis. The first solution can be protection. They can be protected by our government through servicing food, shelter, and other things. The best solution can be the resettlement through negotiations by sending them to their home country. Then moving to the next slide. The risk and solution of COVID-19. We are all known about the problem. The risk of COVID-19 can be inflation, which is very much concerning, lack of awareness and indifference about vaccinations. Most of our population is already vaccinated, but many more are not vaccination, as they are not aware of the effect of it. The solution can be proper vaccination and awareness. Through proper vaccination, we can prevent COVID-19, and through awareness, we can prevent it as a solution for the rest of the life. Thank you. Then I will call my next group member, Ibrahim Khalil, to present the next slide.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is Mohammad Ibrahim Khalil Juboraj, roll number 214. So mentioning about the problems of Bangladesh, trade policy is no exception. Trade policy is one of the biggest concern of Bangladesh. Bangladesh should make the quiet and good trade policy, but there have been some problems which should be mentioned. There are depending on few products and market, high tariff and non-tariff barriers, lack of trade related infrastructure, and inefficient trade logistics. But these problems should be solved, otherwise the economy of Bangladesh will be in great depression. So it requires some solutions, and the solutions have been mentioned beneath. So the solution could be diversification, which means exporting and importing, and then reduction of trade costs. So the cost, the higher the cost, the price of the product will be higher. So which means we have to reduce our trade costs so that people can trade quite peacefully and easygoingly. So, and then we have investing on trade infrastructure and custom authorities and trade promotions agencies. Could we have the next slide, please? So another problem of Bangladesh is public debt situation in Bangladesh. So we already know that the public debt situation in Bangladesh is not quite so well, and it has been suffering from for quite a few years. So we have to solve those public debt situation in Bangladesh. Otherwise, it would be a very concerning factor for Bangladesh. First of all, we have promoting economic growth. Yeah, if you want to serve our public debt situation in BD, so we have to promote economic growth. Otherwise, it will be very unhelpful and unhealthy for Bangladesh. Fiscal consolidation. Fiscal consolidation means Bangladesh could also undertake fiscal consolidation measures to reduce its budget deficit and bring down its debt GDP ratio. And then debt management. Debt management is quite important for Bangladesh. Otherwise, it would be difficult for Bangladesh to they analyze the situation and then manage those problems. And then we have improve project selection and implementation. The project we have which have been undertaken, we have to improve that and we have to implement that in real life so that we can handle the situation quite gracefully. Could we have the next slide? And then one of the big concerns of the world is energy security. Bangladesh is no exception. Bangladesh is also suffering from the problems related to energy security. Those are unreliable electricity supply, which we can surely feel that the electricity supply or the load shedding is quite explicit in our eyes. Then we have gas deficiency. Because of the gas deficiency, they cannot they are not being able to produce the other things that which is the raw material. So the vulnerable supply chain, the supply chain is not that good. The supply chain should be improved. Because of the supply chain, we are seeing that the deficit of those fuels are harming us a lot. Then we have the fuel shortage that has been mentioned earlier. So the solutions are diversification of energy sources. We can use solar sources. Then we have energy efficiency measures. So if we have that efficiency in measuring the energy, then we could know that what portion of energy we are left with, so that we can understand and have the initiatives to solve them. Then we have regional cooperation. We need cooperation from the regions, otherwise it would be quite impossible for us to make the solution. So then we have energy conservation. Next slide, please. Then we have cyber security. Cyber security is one of the big concerns of Bangladesh. Countries like Bangladesh have been suffering from this kind of problem for since the 90s. So the problems could be cybercrime, which is so very explicit in our eyes. Many people are falling victim to it, and then have malware attacks. Whenever we are on online searching or web searching or anything like that, or browsing, we could see that malware attacks are explicit, and they have been harming us for quite a few times. Cyberbullying is a very great concern, and many people have been falling victim to it and have been suffering from it. And then we have cyber terrorism, which is a very electrifying problem of this modern cyber security. So the solutions could be improved digital literacy. People should be aware of the information, and they should have gather knowledge about digital literacy. Otherwise they will fall victim to it, and it will not be proven good for the mass people. Develop a national cyber security strategy. So it is a concern of Bangladesh. So the national team should be taking the initiative to solve it, and they should develop a strategy so that they can save people from falling these problems. And then enhance cyber security infrastructure. If you cannot enhance the cyber security infrastructure, it would be quite hard for the national team to save the people from falling problems like this. Then we have strengthened cyber security laws and regulations. If we cannot strengthen the cyber security and laws and impose those in real life, and forcing people to follow them, then people would be getting reckless, and they will be doing these problems like cybercrime, malware attacks, cyberbullying, and cyber terrorism. So these are all the problems that we could found, and we have mentioned them. Our team member Ujjol and Imtiaz and I, we have tried to mention all the problems Bangladesh is facing really regarding these problems. So this is it from us. Thank you so very much. Take care.